Welcome to Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelvitz. Today we're going to be talking about reverse mentorships. What is reverse mentorships? So we're taking the traditional mentorship model and we're reversing it to a different dynamic. We're taking a junior employees are mentoring now senior leaders. And they can have an opportunity to share a fresh perspective. And in return, they learn the strategy and experience from the senior leaders and give them a different context. Now, it's really not about age. It's about leveraging expertise regardless of where you are in the hierarchy. And something that's important to think about is that hierarchy. Now we're doing a flip. We're having somebody who's more traditionally a junior partner mentoring the senior partner. And this requires a real buy-in from both sides. So now let's look at what are the reverse mentorship components. We want to be looking at how you can really leverage that younger generation's insights. And then we help the experienced professionals adapt to this new fast-changing landscape. So you're flipping the script on how organizations learn. And there's three main components. It is two-way. As I've talked about in previous shows, mentorship only works if both sides are learning. You both have to be open to teaching, but you also have to both be open to learning. And as I said, keep in mind that power dynamic that exists in most organizations. As if you are the older, more experienced senior leader, you need to let that junior partner know that you are now wide open to the things that they have to teach you. So you want to get into certain topics, you want to focus it. So it could be about tech, it could be culture, it could be AI, which is affecting everybody now. It could be the consumer trends in your business, or how your organization is relating to the outside world. And one of the things that is important is that the senior leader can really teach is why it's strategic to the business. We have to tie it to real business goals. Because why are we taking this time to do this kind of mentorship? And so you take these three components, you make sure it's two-way, you make sure you focus in on topics that can benefit both people, and you put it in the context of the strategic business goals that we all work within your business or organization. So let's look at the little difference between traditional versus reverse mentoring. So when you look at traditional, we're taking a top down. The knowledge flows down. The senior guides the junior. It can be a focus on, and it usually is a focus on career navigation. Now, this is still vitally important because in most organizations, without a mentor, it's very hard to move up the ladder. So you need somebody who can kind of show you the ropes, and you should take advantage of that. But what usually happens is the mentor is the higher rank in the power structure. And in some organizations, they fall into a one directional learning that only the more senior person can mentor the less senior person because of their greater experience. And they're not always open up. And as I said before, it's extremely important to think about that learning going both directions. Reverse mentoring reverses that. The knowledge is now flowing from the bottom up. The junior is guiding the senior. They may focus on tech, on culture, on fresh insights, on what is happening in the world today. And it also gives a senior, more experienced person a better insight into what is happening with the younger, less experienced population. So you're still giving, as a mentor, relevant expertise and that two-way reciprocal learning, but it's now reversed. So now you're taking that knowledge and moving it up. And if you think about it in your organization, it is extremely important that you understand what the other groups are telling you. And this goes back to our whole idea of intergenerational teams. Because if you can build these strong mentoring combinations, your intergenerational team becomes quite stronger. And as we have found, and if you look at some of the earlier episodes, what's really comes out of that is the part where it says, wow, we're not only more productive, but we're more innovative because we are open to the whole idea that the best ideas come from everybody, not just from particular people. And this kind of reverse mentoring helps open up that conversation. Because if you, as a senior member, are open to learning from your younger members, you're going to have a better dialogue within your intergenerational teams. So this flows into what the benefits are for the organization. It helps leaders adopt new tools faster. AI is a big example. It's coming into every part of life. Mentored employees have been shown over and over again to have a much higher retention rate because they have a reason to be there. But the important thing is they better understand what the business is about. Because frequently, as leaders, we don't articulate well how what you do day to day in your work benefits the company, helps us make a profit, helps the organization serve the people that they are set up to serve. And the junior partner here is now given an opportunity for their insights to really start reaching those executive levels because that communication is sometimes cut off or there's an intermediary that you have to go through. And if we get too hierarchical and we're not open to hearing what's going on the floor, on the ground with our employees, we are going to miss a lot of things as executive leaders. This also helps with morale because if your more junior employees see that their ideas can also be acted on and that their contributions count, it really reduces that us versus them thinking, which can sometimes happen in very hierarchical systems. So if you're elevating their voices, they're feeling that they belong, they feel that they're contributing, they're feeling that their ideas count. That builds on your innovation. That builds on your productivity. Your talent is engaged. So let's look at how we can create reverse mentorships. What you want to do is work through the different aspects of what it takes to put it together. So you're going to secure your sponsorship. You have to have leadership buy-in. And that's what most of the things we talk about. If the leadership isn't bought into the idea, it's going to fail. They have to sponsor it. Both sides have to be open to training. But make sure you give it structure. Make sure it has a reason for being. And then do what you usually do to measure the success of your initiatives. And then you can scale it up. But I suggest you start small. So you want to tie your program to some strategic business outcome that's important to your business organization. Remember, if the executive buy-in matters, and they need to communicate that to the people who are involved in this program, that they want to see it succeed, that they're going to give you the resources, that you're going to be able to carve out time out of your day in order to do this, that this is now part of your job, not additionally to your job. Then you have to set up a feedback loop. The mentors and mentees have to learn how to communicate with each other. Often there's very different communication styles, is what we've talked about in some of our earlier shows. And always within the system, there's a bias and a power dynamic because sometimes you're mentoring your own boss or somebody who's at your boss's level. You need to keep that in mind because there is a natural power structure within companies and organizations, which helps them work. But you need to let the junior partner know that they can give it to you straight, that you are open to criticism, constructive criticism, that you're going to be able to do. So you're going to set up this system. You want to match people as well as you can from what you already know ahead of time. Keep it small originally. You want to pilot it. And just give them kind of a cadence, of how you want it to proceed. And then have some frequent check-ins. So you have to have that feedback loop, that check-in. If you're in an agile system, that's done almost every day. But make sure that there's feedback coming there. So if a junior partner is teaching a senior person, they need to know what's coming across as working. It's just like any mentoring situation. You need to have that feedback loop. You need to be understanding that the other person is hearing what you said, is understanding what you're teaching. And that's what you partly learn when you're training and teaching people on a regular basis. Like everything else, this takes some practice. Now, what I suggest for the senior leadership is really look at how the mindset is starting to shift. Are they working better as an intergenerational team? If you institutionalize this, is it going to work going forward? Do you continue to have buy-in or have you moved on? Do they feel that you no longer support them? These are all critical to make this work. I'd just like to look at a few things of what to look out for and what to avoid. No leadership buy-in is probably the biggest. Power imbalances, no clear goals, skipping training, no measurement. All that can be turned around if you. Well, we can take a break right now for a word from our sponsor. And when we get back, we are going to talk about what to look out for and to avoid. Welcome back to Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelvitz. If you're just joining us, we're talking about reverse mentorships. We want to take a look at what to look out for and avoid. So what are the pieces that you should be looking out for when you're setting up this reverse mentorship in your organization? No leadership buy-in. Without leadership buy-in, this ain't going to work. Because think about it. If they don't think you support it, why do they think it's going to succeed? You really have to give them that concept that this is something that you want to see succeed in your organization. And make sure that you have somebody sponsoring this that helps it, gives it the resources that it needs to succeed. Think about the power imbalance. Remember, sometimes you're going to be mentoring your own boss or somebody who's at that level or even above. And you need to make it clear that they are there to teach you and that you are open to it and that you're not going to use that power imbalance to keep them from doing that. Because remember, you are also building your team. You are building up these people for future leadership. No clear goal. You need to know why you're doing it. I believe it really helps you meld your intergenerational teams, but you need to decide what your goal is ahead of time. Don't skip the training. Often we throw people into stuff and say, just figure it out. And sometimes you have to do that. But you need to make sure to train them. Because often, especially for the junior partner, they have never mentored anybody before. And the other person that they're mentoring has been in mentoring situations, but they haven't sometimes for a while been the mentee. So do some training. Figure out how you can help them understand what their obligation is, how to do it, where to go for answers, who they can talk to. Remember, you're sponsoring this for them, so you also have to be a resource. No measurement. If you don't know what you're accomplishing, how are you going to get there? So what are you measuring? What does your success look like? What are the results you want? Do you want to build leadership? Do you want the younger, less experienced person learn how to mentor? Are you looking for your more experienced and older staff to understand better what the younger, newer parts of the organization are trying to tell them? Are you opening up the conversation? You can measure all of these things. Remember, you're building new experiences into your organization because this is a very powerful thing to have this reverse mentoring because it empowers people who many times feel that what they have to say is not going to be utilized or respected. Now you have people who are going to be more able to jump up and give you those ideas that they might be keeping to themselves because of the power imbalance, because they feel they're never heard. They feel that anything they ever say is never implemented. You are now creating a new, fresh perspective because you're infusing it with people who are new, who are looking at it in a different way, with people who have experience and have been through the very tough times that allowed them to succeed. So you're keeping that fresh perspective, and that will keep it relevant. Because the reverse mentorship is now pairing two people who are going to be working very closely in intergenerational teams or within or between other teams. And that now they both sides have the skills in order to do that. So you want to make sure to avoid those pieces that are going to keep this from succeeding. And remember, without leadership buy-in, it doesn't work. So let's look at some action items that you can utilize in order to help this work for you. So after a word from our sponsor, we'll be coming back and looking at action items that you can implement in order to bring reverse mentorship into your organization. Welcome back to Bridging of Ages. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about reverse mentorships. And now we're going to talk about some action items that you can do in order to implement reverse mentorships. Action item 1, pick one strategic goal. Why are you doing this? How does it benefit your organization? Don't bite off too big of a chunk. I suggest to you that I feel that it really helps empower your younger and less experienced workers because now they get to teach somebody who's been experienced and been there a while. It now empowers them to understand that their ideas count, and that is going to enhance your innovation. Action item 2, pilot with senior sponsors. So what does this mean? You have to have buy-in from the executives. There has to be somebody who is sponsoring this for the organization. So set up a pilot program with just a few pairs of mentors and enable your organization to move forward with this. And like I said, what I've seen many times is organizations add these things to people, but don't make it part of their official job. So they have to add it on. They have to find time for it. And then it gets pushed aside for other priorities. So if the senior people have bought into this and told them that this is now part of your job and that you can carve out time every day or every week in order to do this, you are going to have a pilot that is going to succeed. Action item 3. Measure the mindset shift. So what are you measuring? You're going to have your success factors that you're going to measure. You're going to see, oh, is there better learning? Is there better communication? Are my intergenerational teams growing and working better together? Have my senior people accepted the learning from the younger people, the junior person? Have we removed some of the power dynamics that keep us from getting our work done? And if all those pieces are falling into place, you will notice there's a mindset shift. And you can measure that in the success of your teams and the success of your people. You will see in meetings and elsewhere that these junior partners who may not have spoke up, who may have thought that their ideas didn't count as much as somebody else's, now feel that there's buy-in, that they count, that what they have to contribute really matters. That sparks your innovation. That improves your productivity. So let's look at our action items. Action item 1, pick one strategic goal. Action item 2, pilot with senior sponsors. Action item 3, measure the mindset shift. And for our tip of the day today, wisdom flows both ways. As you have found in mentoring situations, you learn from each other. It flows both ways. But now, with what we're calling reverse mentorships, we've changed the dynamics so that you, as a senior person, are listening to a junior person. You, as a junior person, now are empowered to teach what you understand and know to that senior person. You both are going to get something out of it. Because remember, reverse mentorship is mentorship. It's a fancy name for how we've kind of flipped the script. But when it boils down to it, it is mentorship. And now you're turning on the talent that you already have in your organization. And it's really helping become that fastest route to success. So remember the tip of the day, wisdom flows both ways. Reverse mentorship is mentorship. This has been Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelvitz. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Invest in brain power, fuel brilliance. This has been Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelvitz. Today we talked about reverse mentorships. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find the QR code in the corner and have the opportunity to see some of the shows that lead up to this topic today. Invest in brain power, you'll brilliance.
Just a face.